Hello, everyone. My name is Andres Diaz. Me and Will are back today to do another Marvel Plus Talk podcast. This week, we're doing X-Men First Class, of course, the 2011 film, the fifth in the X-Men film series. And, of course, it was directed by Matthew Vaughn, starring James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Rose Byrne, Jeremy Jones, and Kevin Bacon. Will, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Um, well, I'm excited that we're talking about X-Men thing.
Yeah, I know you love the X-Men. So
Yes, I know. Do you like the X-Men by any chance?
yeah. The X-Men movies are what like really got me into like Marvel and
Hmm,
like comic books and superheroes. So yeah, no, they hold a special place in my heart. So
that's good. Yeah, and so I like that we are kind of like talking about a first film starring a new series of films, and of course, it's X-Men First Class. I guess my question is, well, when this film was in development, what was your initial reaction of this project being made?
I mean, I was surprised that they were making one set in the '60s
Mm,
and like where Magneto and Professor X were the only like established characters that they were using. Established in terms of like the movies. Um, but I was interested in seeing it, and then I mean, when I eventually got to see it, I was blown away. I mean, this is one of my favorite X-Men movies.
oh
So,
yeah. Um, I think was it like the top Marvel movies I mentioned. This was my third favorite
hmm
X-Men film after Logan and Days of Future Past. And yeah, I mean, yeah, this film's I guess we're gonna get into like a little bit of the development of this film because it's interesting because honestly, uh, we had two really bad X-Men films, of course, The Last Stand and Origins Wolverine, right?
hmm
And during their development on the prequels, it was supposed to be a Magneto prequel film,
yeah,
right?
you can kind of tell that from the final product, but
Yeah,
we can get into that later. Yeah.
yeah. We're gonna get into that later. But honestly, um, Origins. I mean, the Last Stand and Origins did okay in the box office. They did good. But critically, it was horrible. And I mean,
hmm
Origins had the worst, um, critical response,
Yeah.
and and Fox kind of almost like rethink and like repurpose this project. And I was surprised how quick they made this because uh, this is only like 2 years before Origins. I mean, yeah, the
hmm
gaps for the X-Men films were like 3 years. And so, I mean, yeah, you mentioned how like it was weird for this project to have only Xavier. It makes sense to have Xavier and Magneto, but like if you read the actual First Class comics or in general the X-Men universe, the First Class is Cyclops, Jean, Beast, and Iceman, and then
Right.
maybe Storm, right?
Yeah. So
Um,
you got Magneto, Professor X, and Beast as far
yeah,
as like characters that the general audience would be familiar with.
and Mystique. I mean,
And Mystique, yeah.
yeah, which is interesting in this film. But we'll get into that. Yeah. Overall, I was like you. I think I had like I didn't have like it was low expectations and like I didn't know what to expect the film when I saw it. As you said before, when we saw the product, it, I was blown away and I was in love with this film. I think it's one of the best X-Men films uh, ever. I think it did a really good job of um, like for me, it's a great history revisit, revise film. I
hmm
love how they use the '60s. I love the creativity of using the Cuban Missile Crisis as the finale. That's
Yeah.
so awesome. I love that. Um, and in general, I like that we got into more in depth on the Charles and Erik relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, compared to the original trilogy with Ian and Patrick's portrayal of those characters. So I was very happy that this film extended more of their friendship, and I think it did a really good job of that. And I guess where you want to kind of go first? You want to go to characters first? What's your favorite character in this film?
Yeah, Magneto, definitely. They just make him so like complex and compelling. Like you really understand his motivations and his like internal struggle, and Fassbender does such a good job of like portraying the character and like showing that inner turmoil. The most interesting things about this movie are definitely like Magneto and his relationships with Shaw and Xavier. So
yes, I agree, and like it's very cool how they expanded the opening scene of the first X-Men film, and like I like how we revisited that scene, and then we added another layer to it that we didn't know about. So I like how this film like consciously put this much layer thing that we didn't know from the first X-Men film that we saw with the open scene and what Magneto told us in that first film. And like and his arc is really great throughout this film and then into Days of Future Past. And not get into Days of Future Past, but like it's definitely the logical conclusion to his arc. And and Fassbender is great. I think he really embodies the comic book Magneto version, and I really like his chemistry with McAvoy. That was the thing that I was kind of concerned, like how both of them, like, could they be believable in friendship as a friends? And I thought the film really like their chemistry to each other really works to bring that friendship to be real. And Shaw, his relation, the character Magneto's relationship with Shaw is very fascinating and interesting. And I like Shaw. I like Kenneth Bacon's portrayal of this character. This is my favorite version of this character, and I think it's kind of cool to see like a proto Magneto before we actually get Magneto, and I really like how we use the helmet and as the progression of Erik's arc, and I love how this film opens with the Auschwitz scene we saw from the first film, and then ending with Magneto with the classic Magneto helmet, and see him become Magneto. That's such a great like beginning and ending of a film, and like it's such a perfect wrap up of the character arc that he has in this film. It's amazing, and I think that's probably the best character in this film and performance as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and also I was kind of disappointed that they didn't carry the comic book helmet through the sequels, and that makes me upset. Oh, I guess when when they promote the films, and like they always we see Magneto's like when in the ending of the film you see the back of him. We've always seen that shot. I was like, okay, and like his helmet was red, and then what was your reaction when we got to that ending and you saw that the helmet? I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, no, I was surprised that they had like a comic accurate like helmet in the movie. Although this is the movie with the most comic accurate X-Men costumes too.
Yes.
We got the yellow and black like suits when they're going to Cuba.
Yeah, I was I have a question. Just like Spider-Man, like his early appearance, I thought initially the costumes were black and yellow. I thought about
Is it black and yellow or
it's
blue and yellow?
yeah, it was blue yellow, but like when I was reading the comics, like because back then they had like issues with the ink, and
right.
and so sometimes like I didn't know if it was like red or blue for Spider-Man,
Right.
or like the Hulk is a good example of that.
Right. He's green because the gray that they
Yeah.
were using printed incorrectly.
Yeah, and same thing with X-Men. And so I didn't understand the costumes initially, when I read up the the film and then just the comic books. I was like, oh, okay, this is comic accurate X-Men costumes. I love their costumes as well. I was so sad they didn't bring it over in the sequels. Oh my god. But yeah, the production of the production design of X-Men First Class is great. I love their depiction of the '60s, and like it's just so retro. Oh my god, I just love it. And I love the submarine that the Hellfire Club uses. That's really cool. I like how it's like retro, and like it kind of fits in the '60s, and in a very heightened way. Overall, the production design is incredible. I love the wardroom. I mean, like, uh, I'm a Stanley Kubrick fan, and I love how they made the wardroom similar to Doctor Strangelove. So that's an A+ for me for for this film and the production side. Oh, you want any like thoughts on the production side and like in the film?
I mean, yeah, I agree. Like the costumes were cool. The way that they like brought the '60s to life was also done really well. Well,
I think it'll be good to go back to a character, and let's kind of go talk about Professor X. I'm curious about your opinion on James McAvoy. Is he your favorite actor to play Professor X, or is it still Patrick Stewart? I'm curious.
I mean, Patrick Stewart's like portrayal is pretty iconic, but I think James does a really good job of portraying a younger Professor X who's like maybe not as like battle worn. Like it's interesting to see him at the beginning of the movie, and he's kind of like a womanizer, and like a very different character than the one that we know from the other X-Men movies. But I still think you get like the sense that they're the same character. Like there's that sense of continuity between them, even though they're so different. And I think James does a really good job of portraying like the beginning of that character arc.
Yeah, and also like how he like despite the younger like betrayal, he still feels like Professor X, and he also still acts like Professor X. Like he still like when he starts, taking serious of the situation with the Hellfire Club and like trying to find mutants, you see slowly in the film, you see that okay, he is Professor X. It's just he hasn't got to that like point yet, like how Magneto is. I would say like I think to make this kind of easier, I think oh man, yeah, I will say it now, but like I actually prefer McAvoy and Fassbender's portrayal of Professor X and Magneto. They're definitely my definitive versions of those characters in my eyes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I just personally, for me, they got more development in these films. Like this film is honestly Magneto film, and then and the reason I love Days of Future Past as my personal Marvel film is because I relate to Charles Xavier, and that's a Xavier film, and I love. I think that's McAvoy's best performance in his career, Days of Future Past, and I just love how they how they handle the character in that second prequel in this kind of movie. And I mean, I still love Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, but I think they were like the perfect spinning image of those characters, but they didn't really do much. Magneto did a lot in the trilogy, the original trilogy, but Professor X didn't do much in the original series, and so I like more McAvoy because he has done a lot in these two next films that we get from him, First Class and Days of Future Past.
Mm.
Just my opinion, but and yeah, I still love all four of those actors portraying Professor X and Magneto. And I guess kind of getting into I guess what's kind of get into the villains of the film, like the Hellfire Club, and were you aware of the Hellfire Club?
Yeah, I knew about them a little bit from like the cartoons and yeah.
The cartoons are interesting because they always call them the inner club or inner circle, for was it parenting, or like the
Just censorship.
Thank you.
Hellfire on a children's cartoon.
It's funny, and I don't know if you have this opinion, but I kind of like this interpretation of the Hellfire Club, and I love this version of Sebastian Shaw. I really love Kevin Bacon as the villain. I think he really brings the menace and the gravitas of the character, and I like how they modernized him a little bit, and I really like the villains in this film. They're definitely my favorite villains of the X-Men film series, and in general I like Sebastian Shaw now because of this film. I mean, it's kind of hard to handle the ensemble cast. I think this film did a good job of handling the large cast, but I would say with the Hellfire Club, it was disappointing to see like Emma Frost kind of be underdeveloped. And what's your opinion on Jeremy Jones and her performance?
She was fine. I would have liked to have seen more of the character. But I'm a fan of Mad Men, so I'm a fan of January Jones. I think she's. I think there was more potential there for her to play a more like interesting version of the character.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be kind of cool that she was like the proto Mystique in this series. Like she was Eric's right hand woman before Mystique became official in the original trilogy. That'd be kind of like that could have been a cool foreshadow of like how Mystique became his right hand woman in the original series. But which they didn't do that because Days of Future Past kind of killed off half of the First Class people, and that was the one disappointing I didn't like about Days of Future Past. And I don't want to talk too much about the other sequels, but in Dark Phoenix, there's a concept art from one of the people working in the film. There was confirmed that there was supposed to be a new version of the Hellfire Club, and like I think Jessica Chastain could have been a great version of Emma Frost, and like I didn't understand why they didn't do that.
I don't know, but hopefully Disney will do something with them.
And I love hopefully they do something with Emma Frost in the nearest future. And then kind of I got that random mutant in the Hellfire Club that does like the whirlwinds power. Reptile is his name, I think. He seems cool, but my favorite character in the Hellfire Club, besides Sebastian Shaw, was Azazel, the Nightcrawler's father. I think they did a good job of using him, and I love his. It was great to have another teleporter in the film. You think this was superior, or Nightcrawler in X2 is still the best in terms of depicting the teleportation?
I mean, I'm partial to Nightcrawler in X2, just because that's my favorite part of that movie, and that's my favorite X-Men movie. So,
oh my god,
yeah.
Okay, I understand. I kind of wish they did something with him, Azazel, and this like I don't know. I think they did a good job. I like how he fights.
Yeah.
and I feel like that's something we didn't see with Nightcrawler.
Mhm.
So because Nightcrawler is a good fighter, and he has, he used like a sword in the comics, but I mean, it's just a complaint. But I think this film did a good job of like displaying how you can fight it when you can use the power of teleportation. And I didn't hear your opinion, but what do you think about Kevin Bacon as Sebastian Shaw before we go into the next topic?
Yeah, I agree with you that I think he was very good at playing the like intimidating, imposing villain. I especially found him intimidating in the opening scene.
Yes.
Where he was kind of torturing the young Magneto. Yeah, also Kevin Bacon's German seemed really good. Like I don't speak German. I don't pretend to know like what a proper like a German accent should sound like, but it was very convincing.
Yeah. Um, was it the foreign language speaking from these characters? I think are actually really good, especially with Fassbender, because I think he's like a multi language person, and like I think he like speaks the words properly from in those countries, and I think this is like the rare exception of a film seeing the actors like speaking these different languages so well. I'm very impressed, and you're right. I was impressed of Kevin Bacon and that German language. He was talking in that German language is very impressive. And also like how they depict Shaw's powers. I really like how he absorbs any energy he consumes. Like it's a really cool effect, and I think they did a good job of depicting his powers in the film. Okay, and I guess we can anything else with the villains? Will?
Let's see. Trying to remember the other Hellfire Club members. I guess Angel, like
yes,
moving over to the bad guys seemed kind of. It was okay.
Yeah. But I like I she doesn't have any development, but like
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
how I guess we can get into like nitpicks, but I mean Angel didn't have too much development, but like I like how like her reason joining into the Hellfire Club makes sense because she doesn't want to be exposed because she was a prostitute and like she wants a different life, and so like Shaw telling her and everyone in in the Division X department that you can live like kings and queens. I feel like that makes before he said that line, he said you're trying to help the people that are like afraid of you and will exterminate you, and I think she joined them because like well, look, no one likes us because we're different, and then if I have a better life of being this like king or queen, I will take that position because I don't want to stay in this life that I have right now. So I think it's there. It's just we don't spend time with Angel, and you can cherry pick why she chose what the job she had before, and like that scene where the two agents were mocking them a little bit, like that one just say, "Hey, show me the wings," and then he she's beast, and it's like, well, what about your feet and Bigfoot? Like they do like give you like good foreshadow of like, okay, some characters are underwhelmed with this bigotry, and Angel is the one that gets kind of consumed of this dark side because of that. I think it's there. It's just Angel isn't the focus of the film, or like she's not the principal villain that we focus. She's just like a main player.
Right.
So, okay. I hope that makes you like at least like appreciate what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm like I got what they were doing. I just think she and all of the other like teenage members of the X-Men were very underdeveloped in this movie.
Yeah.
Which is like you can tell that it was developed as a Magneto movie and then turned into an X-Men movie later because all of the parts with Magneto and Professor X are like very well done and well developed, and then the X-Men stuff just kind of happens.
Yeah. Like I think I would say past Beast, like the main characters that get the most development is, obviously Magneto, Xavier, Shaw, and then we get to like the supporting characters that get the most focus is McTaggart, Mystique, and Beast, and then afterwards we get these undeveloped characters.
Yeah, right.
And I agree, especially as I mentioned, getting into nitpicks. What do you think about Darwin's death? I mean, that one.
I was disappointed, especially because he had the coolest powers.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see more of them.
I know.
Yeah.
And they were trying to do like the Coulson death, like
right, where that like brings them all together. But like we just met this guy.
Yeah.
There's no like emotional stakes. I'm just like, oh well, the bad guys are bad.
Yeah, and
we knew that though.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I'm looking at like trivia, and it's funny because the actor talks about how he worked out and entered like an eating regimen to get in shape and research the comments about this character, and like his character is barely in the film.
He's in there for like 5 minutes. Yeah.
I know. It's like
the poor guy.
Oh
Didn't he also try out for X-Men Origins Wolverine? He auditioned.
I think so.
So he's like a really big fan, and then he's killed off right away.
Yeah, there's so many actors in these X-Men films. It's like I always forget they were actually in these films, and like it's kind of weird how like the Banshee actor, like Banshee is the same actor that's in Get Out, the redneck villain of the white family. Yeah, that's him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you didn't know?
Hold on.
Hold on. Let me get. Yes, this is him. His name is Caleb
Landry Jones.
Yes, he's in Get Out. He's in.
I don't remember him in Get Out.
Yeah, Banshee is. He too is underdeveloped as well. But like, I think, compared to the original series and some of the Avengers films, I will say that First Class does a good job of. This film has a lot of common in Wonder Woman. Like you have the portal Howley Commandos in Wonder Woman. With the marksman, the native soldier. There were like small arcs with them, and like the Indian guy who wants to be the actor, he got a chance to act when him and Steve Trevor entered the German party, right? And that was his chance to act because he mentions early in the film that he wanted to be actor, but he's in the wrong color. Which, folks, when he say that, that means like when you're like a Latino or like when you're a different nationality, you're gonna have a tough time getting in the Hollywood system, during that time period. In this film, they do good examples of like giving them meaty arcs. Like Banshee getting used to flying and using his sonic boom, and Havoc. We haven't talked about him. Despite Havoc not getting too much in this film. There is a media arc for him of trying to control his, octa blast and energy he displays. And like towards the end, when he like actually throws his active blast correctly towards attack Angel, he did it correctly, and so like that was a moment of like, oh my god, he's actually getting he knows control his power now, and like especially when we get to Days of Future Past, he knows how to like just in the comics he can hit it correctly towards a person, as we saw in the Vietnam scene in X-Men Days of Future Past. So there's just, they do a good job of give each of the the minor characters mini arcs, and I think this film does a good job of that. Except with some characters like Angel or Emma Frost, and unfortunately Darren. And what else? Anything in your mind? What I say? To expand upon.
I don't know. I guess it is difficult to balance like that many characters when you're making a movie. I still think the movie would have been better if it had just narrowed its focus and like only been about Magneto and Professor X.
That
was the more interesting
aspect,
like storyline.
I agree with you, and it doesn't help that Days of Future Past and really the next few sequels after this film just completely disregard this film and his characters. And I mean, especially Havoc. I mean, Havoc is Cyclops' brother, and like he gets less to do in the next two sequels. And when we get to Apocalypse, his death is so laughable. I mean, like, what other nitpicks, and I guess okay, actually, let's kind of get into this. When this film was developed, there was one thing that did bother me, that I didn't have high expectations of this film, was the continuity. This is something that's a major recurring theme in the X-Men film series, is their continuity. And unlike the MCU, as you and I have been talking about lately with the films we discussed, of their interconnected tissue in their universe, has been very good. These X-Men films continuity is so out of whack, and in this film, the first thing that really like confused me, it was just the way we mentioned for the characters that we have for First Class, but also stuff that we got information from. Like we heard from the first X-Men film that Magneto helped Xavier build the school and then Cerebral, and then in this film we see Beast train Cerebral, and I
think it was meant to be like a soft reboot. So it wasn't exactly the same continuity, but
it's funny you say that, because the Wikipedia say that, and when they enter X-Men Days of Future Past and say that it retcons that film and becoming a prequel to the first X-Men film. It's funny they say that in the Wikipedia. I hear this is how they say it. However, at the time of the release, it was intended to be a franchise reboot, as you say, Will, and it contradicted the events of X-Men Origins Wolverine. However, the follow-up film, X-Men Days of Future Past, retcons First Class into a prequel to X-Men 2000. You believe that?
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's not the best practice to constantly shift course in your film series, but
Yeah.
um,
I
I don't know, if you treat it as like its own thing, as a standalone movie, I think it's better than if you try to make sense of the continuity.
yeah. Yeah. Um my opinion is I think this film holds up as its own, and when we enter in the other sequels, it it does work well in Days of Future Past because um it, it I mean, first off, we do have Hugh Jackman in this film
Mm-hmm.
as a cameo, and so obviously it was still in the same universe. And as you say before, Will, it was doing the Star Trek '09 like attempt of
Mm-hmm.
soft reboot, which is fine. I think X-Men First Class and Days of Future Past does that better over Star Trek '09, in my opinion. Um, but when we get to Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, that's where the continuity gets really bad, and weird choices they do to retcon stuff and make the cons problematic for me. Um, um, yeah, uh, and and then and then it was also like I think this is a good time to enter the other character that's major in this series. Moving forward was Mystique. What do you think about Mystique? Well, of course, at the beginning of this podcast, I didn't mention Jennifer Lawrence, and I haven't. What do you think about Mystique in this film and Jennifer Lawrence's performance?
I mean, it's very different from the Mystique that we saw in the first three movies, which is like, it's fine if you're going for a different like take on it. I think making her like kind of an anti-hero was a weird choice.
Mm,
Um, I don't know, because I was so used to seeing her just as a villain.
yeah.
I don't
I
think that's on Jennifer Lawrence, though. I think
no. I don't.
she does fine.
Yeah, she's fine. I like her Mystique. Um I do prefer uh Rebecca Romaine version.
Yeah.
Um, but I also do like the Jennifer Lawrence version because she has more development and she feels more like the character Mystique I know from the comics.
Mm.
And I'm fine with the anti-hero in First Class into Days of Future Past. My problem is when we get to with the ending of Days of Future Past, they did not pay off that ending, and and Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix didn't like it's like a 180 degree of her character arc when we entered Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix,
Right.
and that's my issue. I feel like not talking too much of Days of Future Past, but that film felt like a more finale for this whole entire series, and I feel like the arcs for First Class actors, McAvoy, Fassbender, and Lawrence, felt complete in Days of Future Past. When we enter Apocalypse, it felt like they had to recourse their characters, and I feel like they, in my opinion, I don't think they shouldn't have done because I think they were in the right direction towards the end of Days of Future Past. Like, I think Apocalypse. I think if you want to rewrite that film, Apocalypse, Magneto was already Magneto, and like he at that point should have the Brotherhood of Mutants.
Right.
And then Xavier was already Professor X, and he has the X-Men setup. And Mystique, I could say that she becomes the middle point of those two, and she's like an anti-hero, but like she was still a villain, like I'm trying to find like Loki in the X-Men films. She's bad, but she's not like bad enough,
Yeah. She'll
like
help out in the right circumstances.
exactly. And I mean, I kind of wish they could have done this is because these films, these prequels haven't done the Brotherhood of Mutants, which is weird. I think Apocalypse, you could make Mystique just like in the comics as the leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants. That could have been a new and different direction for Lawrence's character.
Yeah.
And they didn't. I don't understand why they didn't took that instead of. Uh, so, um, I'm with you, Will. I think Mystique was. She's a major character that has the most development in this film. Her arc is actually interesting. I like how when we can get into like how this film really does a great job of handling the themes of prejudice, the superpower men, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and the civil rights movement with with Xavier and Magneto by paralleling it to the superpowered countries of the U.S. and Russia, and like and and then also handling something that I didn't notice in repeating viewing of this film is the commentary of sexism with the female characters they have in this film, especially
Yeah.
with Mystique and McTaggart.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I think Mystique works in this film, and I think that that's where her character really works well here and entering into Days of Future Past, especially she is constantly shifting her identity because of these many forces she has over the years. Let's get into like that. Like, what do you think about X-Men First Class handling these themes they are doing with the sex scenes and the the political commentary Will?
Yeah. I think they handle it really well, especially in Magneto's arc.
Mm.
I'm going to keep coming back to how the Magneto story is the best part of the movie,
Yeah.
but him like approaching it from the perspective of someone who survived the Holocaust and who was like faced unrelenting bigotry before.
Yeah.
It makes him so much more interesting as a character, and like exploring that really emphasizes the like, or it makes you empathize with how these characters are facing just such like overwhelming prejudice. Um, it's easily the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, um, taking in my favorite characters, particularly McTaggart. I love Byrne in this film. I think she's the perfect actress to play McTaggart. Um, and I liked how they reinterpret her as a CIA agent, American, you know, in this film. And I like how in this film they handle the commentary of sexism in this film with Mystique and McTaggart. And I like how they're trying to like McTaggart is trying to prove herself that she's a good agent in this film, and I like how she's in stream like similar to Professor X, how he's trying to prove that mutant and humans can coexist in the world, you know, compared to Magneto's philosophy of the mutants or the supreme um, uh, creatures in the world, and the humans are less, right?
Right.
And I really like how McTaggart parallels that to Professor X by comparing her and how she's been struggling as a female character in the world of the '60s. And same thing with Mystique. I like how Mystique is like she knows what she's like. She's kind of like she's like with the sex dance with Mystique. She's like coming of age kind of person. Like her arc is like coming of age story, like teenager, because like she's very comfortable of okay, so let's do you want to say anything about McTaggart and Will, what do you think about Rose Byrne as her portrayal of that character?
Yeah, no, I thought it was good. It was good to have like a human, like non-mutant character in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To show like the different philosophies between like humans and mutants coexisting, and mutants like taking over, and show like Charles's connection to humanity. I felt the kiss at the end between her and Charles felt a little like that wasn't super developed. Like they flirted a little bit, but I don't know. But it was all right.
That I think that's fine. It's just how Apocalypse pick up that is a little problematic. Like it fits with Xavier. Like he trusts McTaggart to keep a secret, but like he isn't fully trusted that she can hold it. You know, because of probably the government wants to discover more about who the X-Men are, right? Because of the event of the Cuban Missile Crisis, and like and then it couldn't have been an interesting explosion in Apocalypse how Apocalypse uses like successfully uses successfully the mutants powers, where Xavier trusts everyone and to commit to their jobs helping the world or help bring Xavier's dream, right? Which it's kind of there, but it's not explored enough in Apocalypse. But yeah, I was very happy in First Class that we got a human character finally, because so far the original series we just had so much mutant supporting characters, and like we only had like the human villains so far. So I was happy about that change of pace in this film. So okay, what else we need to talk about? Mentioning the continuity. Were you surprised that we had Stryker's father in this film? That was a cool setup.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that, and yeah, it was fun to see like little threads of continuity between this movie and the first three.
Yeah, and especially with Beast, I think it was cool to see Beast here. Let's kind of get into Beast here, because he was like the only character like logically can be in this film, because in Last Stand we saw him in the blue fur, which this film completely retcons that. Like I thought he had the blue fur, but whatever. We'll get into that in these films. What do you think about Beast in this film, and Nicholas Hoult and his portrayal of this?
Yeah, no, I thought he did a good job. I liked his arc about like having to accept his mutation. I wish they could have like developed it more. It seems like he's like so against his mutation, and then he takes the serum and he like fully transforms, and then there's no like resolution.
No.
He doesn't like come to accept it. He's just like I'm stuck like this. But the setup was good.
Yeah, I, I, to be honest with you, I think don't, um, I don't think Nicholas Holt's version of Beast is my favorite. He's a completely different character from the comics and the cartoon. I think, yeah, I love Kissing Grammer as Beast. He feels like Beast in The Last Stand, and like, and Beast is he is conflicted with his mutant appearance, but like he still embraces it, and I think The Last Stand really shows that, and like in the cartoons as well, especially in the '90s show. And in this series with the prequels, he feels more like Hulk than the Hulk in the MCU. And in this film, I was fine. Like I thought maybe initially that Beast was going to be in his blue form throughout the series, but then when Days of Future Past came around and they introduced this, the syndrome that can give him the power of like the turn off ability to transfer his human form again, and I was like, really? And then we get to Apocalypse, it's just such an odd direction with this character with that, and he's not Beast. He's more like a perversion of Hulk, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
I,
I did like that he wasn't just like blue right off the bat though, because it's like in the
yeah,
comics he originally like was just a strong guy.
yes,
Um, but yeah, no, you're right. It does feel more like a Hulk story than a Beast story.
yeah, yeah, and I agree. I have no problem him being in the human form. That was always the early days of X-Men that he was
Yeah,
in, the human form. So I knew that.
yeah.
Um, and I did have a problem. I did have a problem of him turning blue in this film,
No,
but
yeah, I know. Yeah,
yeah, I I just felt it was weird that and this new set of films have this problem of showing the actor's face and like
yeah. I
what
think
I
part of that is like doing the makeup for a character like Mystique or Beast takes so long. Like it's so much for the actor to go through, and I think they were trying to be cognizant of that and make it easier for them.
okay.
But
I
it does kind of take away from the character.
Yes, I understand that, but I disagree with you with that because the MCU, when you look at the Guardians of the Galaxy actors with the
Yeah,
female, they're in all their makeup, and there's no issue with that.
yeah. It could be that just like the way the makeup is done is different in the two movies. Like a
Mm.
decent amount of time passed between those movies, and
I, ooh, I, I, I don't know. I had to probably disagree because
mhm.
because like the MCU commits to their like.
Yeah, no, I
Oh, okay.
prefer what the MCU does. I'm just trying to like I understand the decision that they made for these movies. Even it might not have been like the best decision for the characters or the films overall, but I understand wanting to like improve the actor's experience.
I guess. I don't know. I guess it's gonna be a debate with that. I'm fine with like maybe Beast if we didn't do the blue fur in this film, and like he would still stay in the human form for that throughout the series, maybe, and
Mm.
like maybe in
Yeah,
dark, like
yeah. Toward the end, he could turn blue.
yeah, like either Apocalypse or Dark Phoenix, like
Hmm.
and 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 like in either those films, like Apocalypse or Dark Phoenix, he could turn into blue, and that makes sense
Yeah,
because it can fit in the continuity if they
yeah.
want to. But yeah, so okay, let's see. Um, what other things do we need to talk about? Metric characters. Let's kind of get into the music. Uh, this series has, just like Star Trek, has multiple composers with different scores. What do you think about the soundtrack of X-Men First Class?
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing that really like stood out to me about it personally.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay. Um,
uh, yeah.
okay.
I'm interested to hear your take on it though.
Okay. I'm surprised because I thought like well, it's kind of true with like the X-Men theme, but the Magneto theme is amazing,
Mm.
and that's the highlight of this film. I'm surprised you didn't notice that. Like the Magneto theme is the most notable score that people talk about in this film,
Mm.
and I feel like it fits Magneto, and I was very disappointed that it didn't carry over in the sequels, but you know. But I mean, John Hammond is a great composer, but I think Harry Jackman Magneto theme is amazing. It's one of the best supervillain themes.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, I'll have
Okay,
to listen to it again after this.
yeah. The like the tracks and sections to hear those themes. Honestly, there's a track called Magneto that's is actually used towards the end of the credits scene, uh, towards the credits after the film is over. And then the one track to also hear is the Frankenstein Monster. That's the one that's during the German bar. So those are the sections I recommend to you, Will, to listen to. Yeah. And those are the Magneto themes that I'm talking about. Okay. That's I was surprised. That's very surprising. I guess let's kind of get into Matthew Vaughn. What do you think about him as a director in this film? Because, man, I wish he stay on to this franchise. Because
no, I agree. I thought this film was shot like beautifully. I thought I think we talked about in our like top 10 Marvel movies how I was disappointed by Days of Future Past.
yes,
And I think it's mostly because I wanted it to feel like it was like a direct sequel to this movie instead of trying to like bridge the gap between the two series. I wanted it to be more of like this, but more of it instead of like a new thing. Because I thought that his direction fit the series really well.
I agree. Yeah. Before Bond left to do the Kissman franchise,
mm-hmm.
he was talking a little bit about doing the Kennedy assassination, and that Magneto did it.
Mm-hmm.
That was very interesting talk, and obviously they went a different direction, which I respect. It's always cool. It's okay to do risk, and I think the risk did pay off in Days of Future Past, in my opinion. But I do agree with you, Will. I did wish that we had a sequel before Days of Future Past, like a general sequel to First Class, and or really like a proper trilogy, because when we get to like Days of Future Past and Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, or really Apocalypse, that from First Class to Apocalypse, it doesn't feel like a proper trilogy.
I mean, I've only seen Apocalypse once, and I haven't seen Dark Phoenix because after Days of Future Past, I was like, I mean, these character arcs are like, unless the next movie's done well, I'm not going to care about them. It feels like they're completed. And then Apocalypse was terrible. Dark Phoenix was apparently worse. So, it feels like they really butchered all of the promise that this movie like set up.
And Days of Future Past.
I think Days of Future Past is like a worthy like finale to the series. I just wish there had been more before it.
Yeah, and I agree with Vaughn. He commented this around the Dark Phoenix press tour. During the time Dark Phoenix was hitting theaters, like he initially had like an initial plan that have a general sequel that sets up the third film that was supposed to be Days of Future Past,
mm-hmm.
and then I guess when they hear about the idea of Days of Future Past, they're like, "Oh, let's do that as the next film," and that's what happened. I was sad to see Vaughn low, but like he couldn't. I guess I do agree with you. It was supposed to be a franchise reboot, and I think if Vaughn stayed on, he couldn't show the problems that the X-Men films had with their continuity and stuff like that. Because he commented on that story I mentioned that he had like an initial trilogy plan. He was going to recast Wolverine, and he thought it was going to be Tom Hardy. That going to be and I'm like, you had Hugh Jackman in First Class, and I but yeah, I do like Vaughn, and I think he brought a energy to this franchise that was sorely needed after two critically bad films,
mm-hmm.
and I feel like he brought a new energy to this franchise. Yeah, so it's yeah. I think he's definitely the best director that directed a superhero film. Yeah, and this last decade. And
Okay.
yeah. It's I'm happy he did the Kingsman series, but I feel like he was right for X-Men. But yeah, it's not here
Yeah.
or there.
Maybe Marvel will bring him back.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
there's
that's
a yeah.
you go. You go.
Oh no, I'm sorry. You go first. Well, sorry.
Okay. I was just gonna say that like that was my like takeaway when I finished rewatching this movie. I was like, I really hope Marvel, like, when they introduce the X-Men, they take their cues from this movie instead of
Yes.
any of the other ones.
Yes.
I at the end I was a little mad that this version of Magneto was in the MCU because I think he'd fit in really well.
I know. And you mentioned the helmet in the MCU. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is the best comic accurate costume, and it beats the first Thor and the first Avenger that year. Oh my god, that alone made me love X-Men First Class and be my favorite 2011 superhero film. Oh my god, and and then they disappoint me after the next films.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yes, I know. I mean, I hope I I hope McAvoy and Fassbender can be entering the MCU. I mean, I I'm still hoping for that a little bit, but I mean, we'll
We'll
see.
see. Yeah, I don't want them to reuse too many actors because then it can get confusing for some people.
Yeah.
You know.
Um, my thing is just choose the actors that people like, and then don't bring the actors that the people don't like Lawrence or people that they didn't connect with, like Nicholas Hoult.
Mm-hmm.
Recast them.
Yeah,
Like
I don't know. I think they should try to recast
yeah, and that's what I think.
everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
um, I don't have a problem with that. So that's that's probably where the MCU wants to do. So
yeah.
yeah, and they're not rushing it either. So they're taking their sweet time.
Yeah.
Um, I guess what else? Last thing to talk about is the revision history. What do you think about Will about them using the history and like putting it in their film? Uh,
Yeah, I think the Cold War was a really good like setting for a mutant story, especially for like a version of history where mutants aren't like public knowledge at the
yes,
time. I think having both the Americans and the Russians like fighting while the mutant fight is going on is just like an interesting thing. How they like team up to fight the mutants because their like bigotry towards the mutants is more powerful than their
yeah,
ideological differences. It just creates a really interesting dynamic. And that was another thing that I wanted Marvel Studios to like take from this movie, is to like do more with the social commentary that X-Men is like known for.
yes,
Because I think this movie hits the nail on the head with that aspect.
yes. I agree. It's definitely up there to like Black Panther or WandaVision in terms of handling the thematically ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I think Marvel is doing that. Like they did that with Black Panther, and they did successfully with
Mm-hmm.
that, and they did that with WandaVision, and I think you remember when we were doing the weekly podcast on WandaVision, I mentioned constantly they were evoking the X-Men ideas and themes, but in a
Mm-hmm.
different context, kind of like how Legion was doing. They
Right.
were instead of bigotry and political commentary, they were talking about the mental illness and grief and like death, and like I think they have done that, and I think they're in a good shape of when they gonna do the X-Men. I think they know what the X-Men are. So
Yeah.
I sorry, go.
No, I just said I agree.
Yeah. um, um, uh, I don't think I'm worried about that, but I do hope they look at this, X2, and Days of Future Past, because those three handle those very well.
Mm-hmm.
And Logan as well. I think Logan did a really good job with that.
Logan was good.
Yeah. So, okay. Thank you, Will, for joining me on this podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
And Will, I can't believe it. Next week is Loki.
Yeah, only how many more days? Like 5?
Yes. 5 days to the podcast, but like it's 3 days until Wednesday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Saturday, Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah, 4 days. 4 days. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Until Wednesday. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm so excited. And I mean, I'm excited to see Loki again. And oh my God, it's been over a month, right? That we done a weekly TV talk.
Yeah, it's when did Falcon and the Winter Soldier end?
In April.
Yeah. So yeah, over a month.
Yeah. Since the 23rd.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm very excited for this one.
Yeah, me too. I love the weird stuff. So Loki's gonna be fun.
Oh my God, yes. And
the most interesting part of the Loki poster for me was the like animated clock. I'm really excited to see whatever that's about.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. And for me is seeing Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
In the series, in the MCU, that's great. Oh my God. And he has to say, what was this? Is like his famous like phase.
Wow.
Oh yes, thank you.
Yeah.
He has to say that in the MCU. That needs to happen.
I'm sure it will.
Oh yes. Oh my God. Everyone's been like making comment about that. Like, he has to do it. It's just oh my God.
It's coming.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, he has to say it in the first episode or in the next. Cannot wait too long. Oh my God, yeah. And to wrap this thing up, we're gonna to do the podcast on Friday instead of Sunday, right? That's good for you?
Yeah, that works for me.
All right. Well, everyone, have a nice weekend, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the podcast of X-Men First Class, the Marvel Plus Talk. Me and Will be back again on Friday to discuss Loki, the Disney Plus series, the first episode. And, well, I hope you guys will enjoy the next phase of our podcast next week. Thank you guys for listening to this podcast. We'll be back next week. And hit that subscribe button, and goodbye.